Hey everybody, we're gonna try this again because I just got a sweet new iPad from my parents. Shout out to them. And I actually put in a mic to record the video, and the audio completely cut out. So, I'm kind of just depending on this to go through this time. I recorded a sweet video, but unfortunately I had no audio. It was a big bummer. But yeah, like it's really, this video is all about the Aetherflux Reservoir, and this is definitely like a very combo-ish card. And what like a combo would probably be like, best illustrated as is like creating like a loop, and you can do that with certain cards. There's probably like a couple 3 card loops. They can act as like a win condition. I believe this is a 4 card loop. The commander that we're going to be utilizing to do this is with Maria, the Scholar of Antiquity. She's a fantastic commander that can turn all artifacts into basically lands. They just tap for a green. Usually artifacts just kind of sit on the battlefield. Maybe they'll have passive effects, but this allows those artifacts to not be passive. They allow them to be tapped for mana and to cast other spells, which is very nice. Additionally, you can have tap 2 of those casted artifacts that are on the board, and you can get an impulse draw, where a card you could play for that until the end of the turn. So yeah, that's Maria. And here's the Aetherflux Reservoir. It's a 4 colorless artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Pay 50 life. Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to any target. So we really want to build around this card. I've seen kind of like, Aetherflux Reservoir either can like look really good or just kind of all right. Can gain life from here to there, but you really want to build around it. You want to kind of give it the most support possible. I would say like, reality chip type effects are where Aetherflux Reservoir really shines, is where you're able to like basically play off the top of your deck and, create conditions on your in your board where you can just kind of cast spells freely and continue to do so. Until you reach that ability where you can go ahead and pay life and deal 50 damage to each of your opponents. So, like, this is 1 card out of 100. So, we're gonna not just depend solely on the Aetherflux Reservoir. We want to find like other ways to kind of get the most out of it, right? So, and basically we want to have that ability to loop things as well. There's 2 cards in particular, one I'm still acquiring, but for instance, the Experimental Frenzy. This one can like, it's kind of seen as like a give and take, because you can't play cards from your hand any longer, but you can play from the top of your library, which is actually kind of nice for us, because we tend to play a lot of cards quickly in this deck, and then we'll want to play cards just from the top of our library because we can do so at a fast rate. So the Experimental Frenzy will definitely do that. There's even like a failsafe where you can destroy this thing and then play cards from your hand again if you must. Additionally, I don't have the card yet, but a Mystic Forge is also going to be good here. The thing about Mystic Forge is that you're only allowed to play artifacts from the top of your deck rather than freely play. Of course, you won't have that restriction of not being able to play cards from your hand, so that's kind of the trade-off there. Additionally, the Mystic Forge can tap and exile the top card of your library, so if you brick, like if you can't do any of the playables that it shows, maybe it's a land, you can get another chance to keep going. So that's a nice one. Additionally, one of the favorite things I love to do with the Aetherflux Reservoir is I love to play the Mycosynth Gardens and have it copy the Aetherflux Reservoir, because then I have 2 copies of the Aetherflux Reservoir, and then you're really storming off and accruing so much life at a faster rate, because you have basically 2 Aetherflux Reservoirs on the battlefield, so it just kind of keeps that chain at a more rapid rate. So I love doing that with the Mycosynth. Additionally, some ways that we're going to find it, there's a couple ways we could tutor for it. For instance, with a card like Gamble. The thing about Gamble is it will at random put a card that from our hand once we've tutored that card, and it could go to the graveyard. So it's important that we include like ways to get things back from our graveyard, like a Timeless Witness or a Noxious Revival. So that will be another way to kind of tutor for things already in our graveyard rather than from our library. But the Gamble lets us look in our library. So that's a nice one. Sensei's Defining Top is part of this combo that we've kind of like going to get into. So it's basically a 2-card combo along with like the Mystic Forge or a Experimental Frenzy. And then, so for instance, you have the Aetherflux Reservoir on the battlefield, and then you have an artifact reducer like a Foundry Inspector, which will reduce the cost of artifacts. And then the Sensei's Divining Top is reduced to 0. And then the Sensei's Divining Top can just be tapped, and it'll be put right back on the top of our library. So we can go ahead and play this for 0 over and over again. So that we meet that criteria for casting spells with Aetherflux Reservoir, accruing that life, and then winning the game. Additionally, what if we don't have the Aetherflux Reservoir, but we still have these 2 components, plus like the Experimental Frenzy or the Mystic Forge? Then a card like Grape Shot could finish the job, where we're just, demonstrating that loop, and then this card will be copied for each time we had casted the spell for the turn. So that's what Grape Shot does, and so it just deals basically infinite damage to our opponents. So a nice one there too, of course. And then, for instance, maybe we need to dig around for it. Maybe we have some of these components in place, like that loop. This can make like infinite mana with Burgi. So, we're just casting the Sensei's Dividing Top over and over again. We're accruing red mana, digging for our combo, and then winning from there. Augur of Autumn is just kind of shores up that Mystic Forge where, maybe it only lets us cast artifacts. So Augur of Autumn can help us keep that gas going, help us play lands from the top of our deck. Additionally, it can has creatures as well. And Maria can help us too, because Maria can tap artifacts that we've casted. So we can keep exiling cards off the top of our library and keeping that chain going. So she's a perfect commander for this deck. Additionally, we're going to build a graveyard. So, just kind of the ways to do this. We have the variety of ways, of effective ways to put the cards into our graveyards. What's good about these is they also produce mana as well with Maria. The unearthed cards are exceptional, especially because if we do put them in the library, into the graveyard, like incidentally, we can derive value from them from the graveyard, which is really excellent for us. It's just a really flashy type of play that's just very strong. And, it's like just accruing extra cards that we wouldn't have in normal circumstances. All of these are just grade A, just really solid ways to do that. Also, Noxious Revival is just very good. These are the ones we'll return cards from a graveyard to this one to our top of our library and this one to our hand itself. So these are fantastic for us for our game plan. Additionally, we have cards like Jeweled Lotus, which are just really nice. So this is kind of like my top 8 for like a Maria shell in general. Now, Jeweled Lotus is a little bit on the higher side of power, but these are a little more common now that they came out in the Commander Masters. So that was a nice one. So it kind of brought down that curve a little bit. So maybe these cards are more readily available, but these are just a little more. They're very strong, right? So like the Jeweled Lotus, this is good in Maria too, because you could still tap it for mana even if you've already casted Maria, or you can just keep it to the side and maybe Maria gets removed and you just go ahead and recast her. So Jeweled Lotus is very good. So my top 8 are pretty much here, like the Mox Opal, which just benefits from abundance of artifacts at 0 cost. We'll start tapping for any color mana. Paradise Mantle will turn Maria into a mana rock. Soul Ring, just because it just is so good with all the colors artifacts we have. For that like 1 low cost, you can just add 2 colorless and just play like a Pentad. Well, we wouldn't want to play a Pentad Prism, but we could play like an Arcane Signet with that. That'd be nice. I say that because Pentad Prism is just fantastic, but you want to use colored mana for this with Maria, and you're gonna like really get ahead. You can start tapping for mana, and you can have like kind of a big explosive turn. So I always like the Pentad Prism. Additionally, have like a Ruby Medallion. These are just like the most amazing cards, like in general. The Emerald Medallion and the Ruby Medallion, because not only do they reduce the cost of the spells, like for red and for green, as we can see, they can also be tapped themselves for mana, which is just really big for our game plan. So it's just like kind of a double whammy. These are my favorite Maria cards. It's like probably like in the, the top three, top four artifact cards from Maria. I think they're just amazing. Prize statue is just like one of those amazing ones too. It's like an honorary like top 10 for Maria, because in the right shell where we're going to be sacrificing artifacts, it gets that much better. Just creates a treasure. We can tap it for mana. We can sacrifice it, create more treasure, and like get the benefits of whatever reason we're sacrificing it. It's just, oh, I'm so excited. I love this deck. I just love everything about it. I love Sting in here for the Kuldotha Forge Master, the Goblin Welder, Goblin Engineer, and I also have an Agatha Soul Cauldron, so like we can just turn everything into like Kuldotha Forge Masters or Goblin Welders, and really just like derive a ton of value from it. You can just go into like loops with this prize statue, because you can go ahead and sacrifice it, and then the Sting will untap during each combat, so you can bring back prize statues, sacrifice it over and over again, derive value from your graveyard to accrue mana. It's just an amazing kind of stuff you can do for this. So there's the Kuldotha Forge Master, so you can see the synergy there. And then, so if we're going to be, having that abundance of artifacts going into our graveyard, we want the big artifacts and we want the big payoffs. So we have like Worm Coil, Scrap Mastery, Duretti. All these cards will exchange treasures for big artifacts. Goblin Welder, Goblin Engineer. This one has a little bit of a restriction for 3 costs, but it's still fine. It also will actually entomb an artifact into your graveyard freely, which makes it exceptional, right? Love the Goblin Engineer. Bomat can have like some sneaky discard synergy, and it can also accrue us some cards like in the early game. So it has like that additional payoff where it can derive cards for us, and like we can sneakily discard something into our graveyard with it, and get the cards that it's already been exiled underneath it. So that's a kind of a fine choice. Then we have the One Ring for just a ton of cards. All these things this thing will also act like that Artificer. So like if we have that Sensei's Divining Top, we can play it for 0 as well with that loop if we have those other things on the board, because this reduces spells by 1. So, and it draws us a card. It's so good. It's just the Immortal Sun. And then we got all these sweet artifacts that we can resurrect too, like Steel Hellkite, God Pharaoh's Gift, the Skullporn Nexus, this big Mambo Bombo, Cityscape Leveler, the Great Henge, Portal to Phyrexia. And then we got this nice little, foundation here with the Mox Amber, the Lighted Halfling, Ragavan, and a bird. They have like cards, and accruing a lot of cards with these value artifacts like Howling Mine, Sword of Forge and Frontier, and then we'll, Misha's Research Desk and Phyrexian Dragon Engine, that can get us some cards too. Just especially the Phyrexian Dragon Engine and a Dragon Engineer or a Goblin Welder, even a Kuldotha, for the ones that resurrect to the graveyard to the battlefield, those can do that, and like we don't have to pay that unearthed cost. We're just going to go ahead and bring it back from the graveyard to the battlefield and draw those fresh 3 cards. So this thing just enters from the graveyard. We just draw those 3 cards. It's amazing. Okay, so sweet. And it's a double striker, so it's going to be very good. Like if we put a Sword of Forge and Frontier on it, oh man, or we put, a Sword of Fire and Ice on it, we're just in the money. We're just feeling real good. Some more interaction is like the Haywire Might, Hope of Girapur. These are just nice interactive spells. This one deals with artifacts, enchantments. This one kind of can act like a counter spell for a turn for your, playing against your Gandalf opponents. And then we just have some nice land interaction here with both Seiju and Shatterskull. Then we have some nice gas to tutor up a creature with Timber. Then we have the nice Urza Saga, which will tutor for like a nice 1-drop or a 0-drop for us. Definitely get us ahead on, do a little ramping, like for a Soul Ring, for instance. And we got our fetch lands here that go through some duels. Yeah, got some nice abundance of duels here. The new Surveil land is very good for us. Some rainbow lands like the Spire Industry, perfect for our artifact deck, will just like act as a rainbow land for us. Excuse me. And we have the Exotic Orchard, Mana Confluence, Command Tower, City of Brass, just kind of your staple is your Balaget to get into that graveyard, bring your stuff back. Yavimaya for Forest, Man lands here, and then just our nice land suite. And there it is. And then I also put in like another just colorless card here, the Lava Spoon Boots, because it's just a nice 1-mana colorless spell, and it'll give a little boost and a little ward. So we like that from Mario as well. So That is the deck, everybody. I hope you're having like a wonderful day, and I hope the camera looks kind of cool. You know, I'm trying to figure this out. So I hope this one, I looked like maybe my cards were a little bit low there. So I'll figure it out. I'll figure this out, you know. But there's the, ooh, there's the medallions. They look so nice. But yeah. Yeah, my lighting got a little worse too. But but I think the audio is working now. So I'm so excited for this bigger camera. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.